It's the things dreams are made of. These odds that are wagered in the hands of old winners, in the hearts of young lovers. It's the things lives are given to, our hearts and hands are given to the work of the fields and seas, the nights of the birds and bees.
So my name is Steph. One of the coolest parts about going on this trip was seeing God's sovereignty through it all. I actually tried to go on the trip the year before, but unfortunately we couldn't go because our visas were denied. This year we actually were able to go. Our visas were approved a couple of days before the trip, and then just seeing God's hand over getting all of the team, even to Brazil, together collectively when it wasn't looking super probable was just really beautiful.
God kind of orchestrated the paths for all of us to be able to go up to the consulate on the same day, and really like moved mountains for that to even be coordinated. I know Tim had a court date that day where they ended up settling before court, which is pretty rare. All of us were able to take off work amidst our busy schedules, and we were able to go up to Chicago, and God gave us favor with the consulate, and we were able to go. And once we were in Brazil, it was so clear that we were meant to be in Angra. The first two trips we were supposed to be in Rio and Masai. We ended up in Angra, and it was just clear that even though our visas were denied several times, that was God kind of clearing the way for us to be exactly where He wanted us to be.
So the very first night when we got to Angra, we had been driving all day. We were just really tired, and we arrived to meet the pastor, Anderson, and his wife. And I just remember we entered the room, and there was like this big, like just table full of like food. Like I'd never seen so much food before. And we kind of were like a little nervous to eat it. We were just, I don't know, we didn't know the language, and we were just a little nervous to be there. I think a lot of us were more shy. And so we kind of sat in the living room, and we're like looking out at the view and everything, because everything's so beautiful in Brazil. But just like the way, so we kind of like started talking to the family, to the Silvas, and they like from day one just were so like just open with their lives. And I think that was just kind of the theme throughout the week, was just the vulnerability and the inviting us into their lives, and not just like showing us their church, but showing us just their lives.
I was really nervous to share my testimony. I always have a hard time feeling like it's anything of value, and so we were kind of forced to, in a way, but it was a good way. And the whole time I was almost kind of just angry and bitter about it. But right after, we were eating with the church that we shared it with, and a group of girls had wanted to ask me some questions about my testimony, and it was a way for me to share the gospel with them in a different way that I hadn't before.
Brazil Mission Trip 2018 was a fantastic experience. I call it life transformative whenever I tell anybody about the trip, because there's just no other way to put it. To be in such a fantastic situation where I got to see Chris preach the gospel on the fly in many different situations. I got to have the opportunity to share my testimony with large groups of people over and over and over again. Was humbling, and was just a fantastic experience for me to see how God's kingdom looks outside of Bloomington, Indiana.
Something that God really showed me while we were there is that He loves to break out of the box that we put Him in our head. And we just saw it in so many ways. We thought we were going and doing a VBS, but we really just saw God in everything that we were doing there. And the way that He was making connections between our church and the church there, and the way that He's making connections between the church and the community there. Everything we did was gospel-centered, and it was just so cool to see God break out of this box of VBS. And I feel like coming back, I've just seen that too. The way that I put Him in a box, and the way that He just outshines everything that I could have possibly expect of Him.